He cheated, felt no guilt, and when life hit him hard, he finally paid the price. This is the story of Ethan and Ava. Ethan and Ava were the picture-perfect couple, the ones everyone envied. They had been together since college, building a life filled with shared dreams and laughter. Ava was the architect of their world, a woman whose love for Ethan was as deep as the ocean. She supported his ambitions, celebrated his victories, and comforted him in his defeats. Their apartment wasn't just a space, it was a home she had lovingly curated, filled with memories and the scent of her famous baking. To their friends, they were Ava, a single entity, inseparable and destined for a fairy tale ending. But fairy tales often have a dark chapter, and theirs was named Chloe. Chloe was Ethan's new colleague, a whirlwind of flattery and bold advances. Ethan, who had grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable, in Ava's unwavering love, was intrigued. The attention was intoxicating. It started with innocent lunches, then late-night texts, and soon, it spiraled into a full-blown affair. The man who once rushed home to Ava now found excuses to stay out, his phone permanently silenced and face down. Ava wasn't naive. She felt the shift, the growing distance that felt like a chasm between them. The warmth in Ethan's eyes had been replaced by a guarded coldness. She tried to talk to him, to bridge the gap, but he would dismiss her concerns with a wave of his hand, calling her insecure or paranoid. He made her question her own sanity, a cruel tactic to hide his betrayal. The truth, however, has a way of coming to light. It came in the form of a lipstick-stained shirt he carelessly tossed in the laundry. The color wasn't one Ava ever wore. The confrontation was brutal. Ava, with the shirt in her trembling hands, asked the question she already knew the answer to. Ethan didn't even flinch. There was no apology, no remorse. Instead, he looked at her with an unnerving calm and said, "It just happened, Ava. These things happen." He spoke of their life together as if it were a business contract that had expired. He called their love a routine, a comfortable habit he was ready to break. He confessed he was in love with Chloe, that she made him feel alive in a way Ava no longer did. Each word was a dagger to Ava's heart. He wasn't just ending their relationship, he was erasing their history, devaluing every moment they had shared. The worst part was his complete lack of guilt. He packed his bags that night, leaving behind the home Ava had built. And the woman who had built him up, without a single look back. His final words as he walked out the door were, "You'll be fine, Ava. You're strong." It wasn't a compliment, it was a dismissal. The weeks that followed were a blur of pain for Ava. The apartment felt cavernous and silent. Every corner held a memory, every object a ghost of a shared past. Her friends rallied around her, their support a lifeline in the storm of her grief. They brought food, dragged her out of the house, and listened for hours as she cried and raged. Slowly, piece by piece, Ava began to rebuild. She channeled her pain into her work, her focus sharper than ever. She started boxing, each punch a release of anger and hurt. She redecorated the apartment, replacing his ghost with her own vibrant spirit. She was rediscovering the woman she was before Ethan, a woman of strength, creativity, and resilience. Meanwhile, Ethan's new life with Chloe was a whirlwind of passion and excitement. They were the city's hot new couple, always at the trendiest spots, their social media a curated gallery of their perfect romance. Ethan felt like he was on top of the world. He had a new, exciting partner and had just landed a major promotion at work, a project he was leading. He barely gave Ava a second thought. In his mind, she was a closed chapter, a part of his past he had successfully moved on from. He believed he had it all. But life has a funny way of balancing the scales. The first crack in Ethan's perfect world appeared at work. The major project he was leading, the one he had bragged about endlessly to Chloe and his friends, started to crumble. Key clients pulled out, deadlines were missed, and his team grew frustrated with his increasingly arrogant and dismissive leadership style. He had been so focused on his new life that he had become complacent, his professional judgment clouded. The project, meant to be his crowning achievement, became his spectacular failure. He was demoted, his reputation in the company tarnished. The financial strain was immediate. The lavish lifestyle he and Chloe enjoyed was no longer sustainable. The fancy dinners were replaced by arguments over bills. The romantic getaways turned into tense weekends at home. Chloe, who had been attracted to Ethan's success and confidence, found herself living with a man who was stressed, irritable, and defeated. The charm that had once captivated her was gone, replaced by a desperate anxiety. She hadn't signed up for this. She had signed up for the winner, the man at the top of his game, not the shell of a man who complained constantly about his bad luck. The final blow came when Chloe left him. There was no dramatic fight, just a simple, cold note on the kitchen counter. It read, "This isn't fun anymore. I'm out." She was gone, taking with her the last vestiges of the perfect life he had so callously built on the ruins of his relationship with Ava. He was alone, in an apartment that felt cold and impersonal, with a demotion at work and a mountain of debt. The whirlwind romance had been just that, a storm that had passed, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. It was during a cold, rainy evening that Ethan found himself walking past the old apartment building he had once shared with Ava. He was drenched, miserable, and utterly alone. On a whim, he looked up at their old window. The lights were on, casting a warm, inviting glow. He saw a silhouette moving inside, and his heart ached with a familiar pang. He pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over Ava's number. He felt a desperate need to hear her voice, to apologize, to somehow turn back time. He convinced himself that she would understand, that the strong, forgiving Ava he knew would take him back. He finally hit dial. After a few rings, she answered. Her voice was different, calmer, more confident. He stumbled through an apology, a pathetic ramble about his mistakes, his regret, and how much he missed her. He painted a picture of his miserable life, hoping for a sliver of pity. He told her he loved her and that leaving her was the biggest mistake of his life. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. When Ava finally spoke, her voice was steady, devoid of the emotion he had expected. "Ethan," she said, "I'm glad you called. It gives me a chance to say something I should have said a long time ago." "Thank you." Ethan was confused. "Thank you? For what?" "For leaving," she said. "You leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. You were right, I am strong. Strong enough to build a life without you, a life I truly love. I have a wonderful partner now, someone who respects me and cherishes what we have. We're getting married next spring." The line went silent as Ethan absorbed her words. He could hear faint laughter in the background on her end, the sound of a happy life he was no longer a part of. "I wish you well, Ethan," she said, her voice genuinely kind. "I hope you find your own happiness someday. But my world doesn't include you anymore. Goodbye." And with that, she hung up. Ethan stood in the rain, the dial tone buzzing in his ear. It wasn't anger or hatred from Ava that broke him, it was her indifference. He finally understood the true weight of his actions. He hadn't just lost a girlfriend, he had lost the one person who had truly loved him. He had inflicted a world of pain without a shred of guilt, and now, he was the one left alone in the cold, paying the price.